Staying healthy even while you are traveling. We're going to talk to our pediatrician just ahead about that. And paying off student loan debt. We'll share some strategies. Plus, the need for more volunteer firefighters. We'll talk about that. Mid-morning starts right now. Good morning, everybody. The number of people infected with coronavirus has surged by more than 3,000 as experts worry it could become a pandemic. In the epicenter city of Wuhan, a newly built hospital dedicated to treating the virus is now accepting patients. More than 420 people have died in China, and more than 20,000 people have become sick worldwide. Mola Lingyi is at Princeton University in New Jersey, where about 100 students who recently traveled to China were required to self-quarantine.
You're afraid to go out because there is a lot of panic everywhere.
As the coronavirus leaves parts of China in a seemingly never-ending lockdown,
I think it's quite safe to go outside now if you don't interact with people.
Some countries are taking extreme measures to stop its spread. Australia sent hundreds of evacuees from Wuhan to a remote island in the Indian Ocean for at least 2 weeks to monitor them for symptoms. In Japan, officials quarantined thousands of cruise ship passengers after a Hong Kong man who sailed on it last month tested positive for the virus. And in Hong Kong, more than 2,000 medical workers went on strike, demanding that the government close all its borders with mainland China. The crisis is far-reaching. Coronavirus cases have spread to more than 24 countries. 2 deaths have been identified outside of mainland China, but the World Health Organization called some countries' restrictions excessive.
There is no reason for measures that unnecessarily interfere with international travel and trade.
In the U.S., officials have identified a second case of human-to-human transmission, this time in California. The CDC is currently monitoring 82 people for potential infection.
What is there to still be concerned about?
In some cases, a person without symptoms seems to have transmitted the virus. How often does that happen?
Dr. Mark Mulligan is head of infectious diseases at NYU Langone in New York City.
It seems that the virus spreads fairly easily when you're not isolating cases quickly and quarantining contacts quickly. They're now doing that in China. We're doing that here. How effective those measures will be, again, is something that worries me.
The Department of Health and Human Services announced yesterday that it's making nearly $250 million in emergency funds available, including money that'll go towards screening and monitoring returning U.S. citizens who are expected back here in the U.S. in the coming weeks. Mola Lingyi, CBS News, Princeton, New Jersey.
All right, so you may not be traveling to Asia or even overseas, but travel with children requires a little extra germ protection. Airports, public restrooms, even restaurants can be a hotbed of germs. Dr. Keith Watson, our pediatrician, is here this morning with some advice. Good morning, Dr. Watson.
Good morning.
I have a 10-year-old, as you know, but when she was younger, and even now still, I dread public places if we have to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
You just have to be extra careful regardless.
You do. And unfortunately, though, even if you're not traveling, the public places that you encounter, even here, are numerous.
They
School,
are.
Walmart.
Anywhere you go.
The mall.
So let's talk about some added protection, particularly during this season that we're in now. You're seeing a lot of flu in your office, you're seeing a lot of strep throat in your office, all sorts of viruses. So what are some added protection that parents can have for their children?
Well, if you're talking specifically children, especially infants, and then especially if they are young and have not had a chance to even start their vaccines yet.
Okay.
You know, the best advice is you don't go out.
Really?
Yeah. Or you have someone stay with the infant while you go out and do what you need to do. But as best you can in situations like this, you know, you can't avoid it all. You know, you cannot put yourself into a bubble and avoid all things. But
although as much as we'd like to.
As much as you would sometimes like to, absolutely. It sounds so simple, but by far the single best avenue you can take to prevent spread of disease is washing your hands. After you go to Walmart and you push the buggy around. When you get back to your car, I carry hand sanitizer in my truck. I make my kids, even though they're teenagers, I make them use it after we've been in public places like that. If you are sick or under the weather, don't go.
Right.
Try to spread those kinds of things.
Right.
Limit your exposure while you're there. In other words, if you've got to go to Walmart, go get what you need to get and get out.
And get back home.
Don't go to the mall and spend 8 hours shopping
Right.
in the middle of winter when everybody's got every germ known to man.
I think it's also important for people to remember to respect personal space. I mean, you know, some people are just huggers, and some people don't like to hug. They don't want to shake hands because they're just sort of paranoid about those things, and you have to be understanding of that when it comes to other people.
You do, and you could have been exposed to something and not yet sick.
Right, exactly.
And you can be spreading it when you don't know.
Okay, when it comes to going out, you may be in a situation you've got to take your small kids out. You don't have a babysitter. And they don't need to walk around with masks, obviously, but it's just sort of keep your hands to yourself. Don't touch everything. Don't touch everybody.
Yeah, exactly, and get what you need and get back into your vehicle and go home. And if you've got infants, and sometimes you have to go out and you don't have a babysitter,
Sure.
you have to take the baby. Keep the baby in the car seat, keep a blanket over the car seat. Don't let everybody come up and look at the cute baby.
Don't let them a rule of thumb for me is don't touch babies' hands because their hands go in their mouths.
And I will even tell my parents a lot of times, you can make me the doctor the bad guy. You can tell the grandparents and the aunties and all the family members that, if they're a little bit under the weather, the doctor said, you cannot come kiss on the baby and you've got to stay away till you're better. That's Dr. Watson's rule. And that keeps them out of trouble. It makes me the bad guy.
It's the exact thing we did when we brought our daughter home. The doctor told us, keep your family members and friends away for a little while. And, those who come, you make them squirt with the hand sanitizer because this is what you need to do to make sure the baby stays safe.
You wash your hands before you touch the baby. You wash your hands after you're done touching the baby. When you go out into these public places and you touch shopping carts and door handles and all of these places, you wash your hands.
All right, let's talk about washing hands in this last minute. Does it matter if the water is hot or if it's cold? Does it matter how long? Does it matter with what kind of soap? Talk about that.
Soap in general is fine because soap will kill bacteria. Timing, yes. You must do it long enough that the soap can render bacteria and viruses dead, if you will. So you want to wash and lather for at least 20 seconds.
Someone told me sing happy birthday.
Oh, yeah, it's a good idea.
Sing happy birthday.
Count to 20. Cold water, hot water, there's a few differences here and there either way, but now specifically, cool water is probably a little bit better than hot water. Hot water will kill bacteria, but you can't get the water hot enough to kill bacteria washing your hands without burning yourself.
Okay, got it. That makes sense.
In that sense, it probably doesn't make a big deal. But duration, absolutely. Get a good lather, get between your fingers, wash for 20 seconds, rinse off.
Okay.
Take a paper towel to turn the fountain off after you're done.
Yes.
Because what good does it do you to wash your hands and then turn the nozzle?
And then to go leave the bathroom and touch the handle on the bathroom
and use a paper towel to grab the bathroom door.
Right, exactly.
And then open it up to prevent touching things.
Lots and lots of precautions, but you have to keep these things in mind. Good advice. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
All right, let's be well, everybody. Okay, it can be one of the most difficult things to do when it is cold outside, but keeping children active in the winter is not impossible. Mandy Gaither has some tips on that.
Outside it's colder, the days are shorter, but despite winter weather, keeping children moving is still important. Preschoolers should be active throughout the day, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. Those 6 and older should practice moderate to vigorous physical activity at least an hour a day. So bundle up and go for a walk. Head to the playground or try geocaching, where GPS receivers are used to track down a container or cache. If there's snow, send them outside to play. Sledding can be great exercise. Or go ice skating. Indoors, let them dance. It's fun for kids and keeps them moving. Join a play group. Play games like Twister that will keep them on their feet. Encourage video games which get them exercising. Do yoga or go to an indoor rock climbing gym. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And keeping active during winter is important for adults, too. At least 3 days a week of aerobic activity improves your health benefits, and that's according to federal physical activity guidelines. All right, by throwing shade at the lack of skills taught in our local schools, one company hopes to change that. The story when we return. Welcome back. It is estimated student loan debt now tops more than $1.5 trillion. Paying for those loans can be difficult, and experts say the key is to plan ahead. Elise Preston reports.
Megan Combs went to college to pursue her dream of working in the arts, but the 32-year-old is still paying off her student loans.
Around this time last year, I owed about $66,000 in student loans.
On average, college students who graduated in 2018 owe more than $29,000 in loans.
Here's your quick back-of-the-envelope formula, and that is only borrow the total amount of money that you think you'll make in your first couple of years of work.
CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger is the author of The Dumb Things Smart People Do with Their Money. She says the best strategy is to avoid student loan debt in the first place.
We want to start having conversations with our children, maybe when they're in 8th or 9th grade, and talk to them and say, here's what this family can afford.
Those discussions might reveal the family can save money by considering schools nearby.
Maybe it's better if I go close to home. Maybe I need to go to a state school or a community college.
Schlesinger says for students who are facing debt, the first step is to go through your budget and try to get high-interest loans paid down. That's what Combs did. She took on a roommate and received a raise at work. That's allowing her to pay off her debt faster.
My timeline for paying off my student loans this time last year was around 10 years. And now with my living situation and my raise, all of that allows me to pay them off in 4 years.
She's hoping for another raise, which could help her do it even sooner. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
And experts say it's also important that parents continue to fund their own retirement while helping a child get through college. An Ohio man doesn't owe any money for student loans, but one company apparently thought otherwise. Brian Duffy explains what happened next.
Dan Kane knew there was a problem right away when the clerk at the postal counter told him,
"You've got too much mail to walk through the front door."
So he drove around back. And then he saw postal workers wheel out 2 massive carts full of trays of mail.
Dee and I were shocked. We were like, "Are you kidding me? Who makes that kind of mistake?"
Turns out the College Avenue Student Loans Company made that mistake. He counted 79 trays of letters with about 700 letters in each tray. That's 55,000 letters, give or take. All of them exactly the same. A statement from the company regarding his daughter's student loan. The company told him it was a glitch in their system and apologized. Now, he has to figure out a way to get rid of them.
I may just start a bonfire, and burn it all.
To make matters worse, the statements, all 55,000 of them, were incorrect. The company had calculated the wrong interest payment. They apologized for that as well. And yes, they're sending a new statement. Hopefully, just one.
I just hope it doesn't happen again. You know, I might have to return to sender. So.
Well, the building blocks of the 21st century are digital, and less than half of Mississippi's public schools teach computer science. Courtney Ann Jackson has more on the latest push to change that.
C Spire has invested millions in supporting computer science in schools around Mississippi, but their new ad campaign suggests more has to be done.
Thank you for not requiring computer science in schools. Georgia did, so growing companies come here instead.
The ad is a dramatization, but the issue is one C Spire says is all too real.
In order to be able to see the drastic improvement that we need to see in our workforce, that it's going to take computer science education in schools. This is an opportunity for our kids, for their future. They're going to be left behind.
The campaign encourages the public to get on board with C Spire and gives you easy access to a form to write lawmakers and say you support legislation requiring K-12 computer science curriculum in all public schools.
We need people in Mississippi in our workforce with the skills needed to be able to fill those technology roles. And this is not something just for technology companies. This is for companies regardless of what industry that they're in, because technology impacts all of us in our day-to-day.
Clinton is one district that's already starting teaching computer science at younger ages.
The project of that person, and it's going to put it onto your iPad.
This 5th grade computer science class designed video games that reflect the storyline of a book they recently read. But those skills stretch beyond gaming.
I've seen kids who maybe didn't have great grades in English or great grades in math or even a lot of support at home, but they come in and they can code and they can solve problems and they can think critically and they soar in this class. And all of a sudden it turns something on for them that they can be a part of later in life that wasn't there before.
Courtney Ann Jackson, WCBI News.
The bill that would make computer science a requirement in Mississippi schools hasn't been filed but is being drafted. We'll keep an eye on its progress at the state capitol. Across the country, many communities are dealing with a shortage of volunteer firefighters that's putting neighborhoods at risk. Johnny Fernandez shows us how some areas are trying to lure new recruits.
When a fire started at this Pennsylvania apartment building, volunteers from the Langhorne Middletown Fire Company responded and put it out. 26-year-old Tom Brown is a recent volunteer.
I'm an Eagle Scout, so I've always been in the community service type stuff, and one night I sat up in bed and was like, you know what, I'm gonna volunteer with a fire company. Next day I did an application, and now we're here.
But Brown is unique. Statistics show fewer young people are signing up because they tend to move around and not stay in one community, and older volunteers are aging out.
Now we go out for any call with 2, maybe 3 people on a regular basis, and if we're lucky, we'll get 5 on the truck.
The National Fire Protection Association reports just 682,000 people volunteered in 2017, down more than 200,000 from years prior.
Got to maintain the equipment.
Frank Ferry is the Langhorne Middletown Fire Chief and a Pennsylvania state representative. He says the decline is creating a public safety crisis, so he's pushing lawmakers to consider bills that offer incentives.
They range from essentially a GI Bill for our volunteer firefighters. So our volunteer firefighters and EMS providers that go to any of our state system schools would actually have free tuition.
Ferry says if more people don't join, communities across the country may need to shell out billions to protect against fire.
Your property taxes have to go up because they're going to have to hire a 24/7 paid fire staff.
Brown says being a volunteer firefighter is very fulfilling.
You make lifelong friends, and you get the reward of seeing a smile on someone's face, even in their worst day, worst situation.
He says he feels honored to serve his community and hopes others will consider doing the same. Johnny Fernandez, CBS News, Middletown, Pennsylvania.
And wine experts use their nose coming up to sniff out the best vintage. These experts are sniffing out something entirely different. We'll show you just ahead on Mid-Morning.